Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Nuance Needed. I'm Amanda.
And this is Sam.
And today we're going to talk about sexual shame and masturbation and sex. And this was really inspired, actually, by, I don't know if any of you all loosely follow Maddie Pruitt, who was a bachelor contestant who was going to wait till marriage to have sex. And then she really fell down. She married someone who was super religious and a billionaire, and she's super religious, and she has sort of become like an inspirational Christian speaker, which is a very odd,
it's a hard
niche
left turn.
Yeah, it is interesting to be like, you were on The Bachelor and you felt comfortable with that, but now you're doing this. And what sparked sort of all of this, Maddie recently came out and said she actually described it as she had an addiction to sexual sin, which we'll get into and talk about. But the quote from her is, "Thankfully, by the grace of God and by the power of godly community and people around me, I've been free from porn and masturbation for 10 years. It was something that enslaved me for so long. No matter how much I loved Jesus, I could not shake the sin. I could not break free. And I would beat myself up, and I was bound by shame." And she also, what I really didn't like was that she talked about how her body isn't her own, it's God's body, and that's why she needed to break free of sin. So naturally, that made us very upset.
So naturally, we had opinions.
Yes.
On someone else's life.
And we thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about purity culture, sexual shame,
So I saw that because Kate Kennedy, friend of the pod, posted it. Then you and I started chatting about it. And I would say my reaction at first was one of annoyance and kind of for the love of all that's holy, can we learn the inside outside voices concept? And I said this to you at brunch.
Yeah.
Can we learn the inside outside voices concept for the internet? But that's also a very bold statement for a fellow podcaster to make. So I rescind that thought. As I kind of really sat with that, because I knew this was something, hearing it, that it was going to bring up stuff for me.
Yeah.
On a personal level, and it did. And as I sat with it to kind of realize what was going on underneath, I just felt sad for her, because when she's talking about the shame and the idea that she's trapped in this idea of sin, and she felt like she could not release the shame. It's really interesting how they almost land the plane. They almost land the plane every time. And specifically when we're talking about sex or anything to do with sexual intimacy, they almost get there every time. Instead of being able to just walk on a flat surface, they make a hard left off a cliff into this whole well, that must mean that I can never do this. And I am so bad because I did this. And the only way I can possibly recover is to turn my life over to this higher purpose and belong to God. And because I am God and he is me and I'm his body, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And as someone that lived under that type of pressure for a really long time, it is so mentally exhausting to be moving through the world worried that you're doing something that's upsetting somebody that you don't actually know if they're real or not, but you tell everybody they're real because they're in the sky and they're monitoring all of your behavior. And I know that there are probably some of you listening to this who hold religious conviction. And as someone who still retains a lot of spirituality and a belief in some form of a higher power, I don't say that to be sarcastic and cruel, but to lay out, that's the reality of what you're believing.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when you tie in the sexual component and the shame around it. You have a fear that this being that you've never interacted with is watching you do this.
Yeah.
And you feel so uncomfortable and so shameful, because that is an inherently uncomfortable thing to imagine.
Yeah.
That in these very private, very intimate, biologically normal moments, there's this figure witnessing you making this mistake.
Yeah.
And that is so oppressive and so uncomfortable. And the only natural, like, route through that experience is to think you are an inherently bad person.
Yeah.
Because you're wrestling with, like, as in religion, the term you hear a lot is the natural man. Have you heard that term?
No, I've never heard that term before.
So the idea, so the whole point, and this is from like Mormon doctrine.
Okay.
So this could be different in other religions, but the idea of the natural man is this idea that we are inherently imperfect. Like humans are flawed.
Like Adam and Eve,
yes.
Right? Like you're born with the original sin.
Correct. Like we are inherently.
Can I just like,
please?
That is I have such a problem with it.
I know.
What a sad, messed up. Like, I don't super believe in God necessarily, but like, why would a God who's loving and caring be like, you're a fucked up bad person and you need to spend your whole life repenting for it to then get to this better place? Like, that just literally, I mean, but it's like conservative religion in a nutshell, right? Of preaching one thing, right? Preaching about love and forgiveness and all these things, and then doing the exact opposite. So I guess maybe it is similar.
Yeah. and you know, I'm exactly with you. And it's honestly, it's a concept I struggled with, like, even when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
In my head, I didn't really vocalize it as much, but in my head, I remember being like, why am I so bad?
Yeah.
But then what's odd is, like, in the reverse, they tell you that that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Because the reason we were made that way is so that we would have these imperfections to bring to God, so that we could learn from him how we're supposed to be.
Okay, so now God isn't just like, you're a messed up bad individual.
No.
I also gave you these things. I made you messed up so you would be dependent on me. Like in relationships. You need me to heal you.
Literally. Like the whole, in the Mormon religion, what we're taught is that we come here so imperfect, and we come here knowing that we are going to make just like mistakes every day. And then the whole point is that we can go back to the Lord and acknowledge that we made those mistakes, and then commit to do better, and tell him that we trust that he can, like, make us better. And that the standards he has for us, the standards he wants us to live at, are so that we can be perfectly happy. And so what's, like, fascinating is it's like, well, yeah, like, humans are inherently flawed.
Yeah.
It's a philosophical thing, right? We're programmed for error, and our brains are programmed to learn and be malleable in order to overcome and work through those errors or mistakes or missteps, whatever. But then we just decided to, like, wrap it in this insane level of shame. Like, dark.
Well, anything, that is the problem, though, is it sort of sets you up for shame. Because, right, shame isn't, I made a mistake. It's, I am a mistake. So if you believe you have inherent character flaws, you're not going to feel guilty about that. You're going to feel shame.
Right. And shame is paralytic.
Absolutely.
Because if you think that you are inherently bad, there's something that is inherently wrong with you, of course you are going to feel the need to, like, completely submit to this one power that is capable of, like, washing that away and erasing that. And I think Maddie, and I want to be careful, because everybody gets to believe what they want to believe.
Yeah.
Like, what makes me ill is the level of, like, self-hate and self-loathing that is so inherent in all of this. Over things like, if we're going to talk about sex, and the way I say this, I don't mean to sound like some silent generation parent, like, explaining something on your wedding night. Like, but it is, like, a natural thing.
Yeah.
It literally is. Like, we're designed.
Yes. It is like puberty.
Yes.
Like you're designed to, and I think about this all the time with my daughter and how like I want her to, I'm sure this is like a weird thing to say, but like I want her to enjoy her body. I want her to enjoy sex. You want all of those things for someone you love. And it's really sad that we act like, especially, I don't know, as someone who, I'm curious about your experience during puberty. But even though I wasn't raised religiously, did grow up with a lot of like fear that I was a bad person and just like very, because a huge part of my identity was sort of like being a good girl. So because of that, if I did anything that like I didn't think was good or other people didn't think was good, I would like spiral and question. And I thought I was like, I don't know. I had like a lot of like, I thought I was gross, like growing up a lot, especially when puberty hit. Like, and I think it's why pregnancy was so hard for me because it felt like I was like going through puberty again. Like horrible. Like I didn't feel like it was natural to be pregnant. I actually had a lot of like shame telling my parents, which is super weird because they like telling my parents I was pregnant.
Was it because of the sex?
Yeah, because I was like, they know that I've had sex.
It cannot be ignored.
That's how I felt when I was pregnant. I felt like I was a walking billboard that was like, I had unprotected sex.
And I am
Which is weird because like I don't even have like sexual shame anymore. Like I'm fairly open about it. Not with my parents though, I guess.
Yeah, please no. Yeah. Nobody. You do not need to heal your shame far enough that you're like, I'm going to talk to my parents about this. Like, no, you're allowed to keep that to yourself.
We can have boundaries.
Exactly.
But yeah, like I had a lot of shame in telling them. Because I felt like I was 16. I just couldn't escape the feeling that I was just like a knocked up teenager. You were a teen mom. Yeah. And it felt very strange to go from my whole life. I was essentially told if you got pregnant, it would be the worst thing that ever happened to you. Like my parents talked a lot growing up about like, if you get pregnant, your life is over, sort of. And like, that is the worst thing that can happen to a girl, which is so hilarious, right? Because my parents didn't really talk to my brother about like the worst thing you could do is probably get a girl pregnant,
Yeah, of course not.
I digress. So it's very strange to go from that to then in my experience, right, I got married and then it was like, when are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? And it kind of very quickly switches from this is the worst thing that could ever happen to you to this is the best thing that could ever happen to you. And I felt very lost and disoriented in that space, especially because I got pregnant quickly. So I just felt like fertile myrtle. Like, I don't know. I just felt like disgusting about it, which I know anyone who like, I'm not trying to, anyone who's struggling to get pregnant, like, my God, I have so much compassion for you. I just was like shocked and
in fairness to you, you didn't think it was going to happen quickly.
Yeah.
We've had that conversation before.
I didn't. Yeah. But it was just it's literally like I don't know, it just brought up everything from puberty. I hated puberty. I hated developing boobs. Like I thought I was disgusting and gross. Like I wasn't one of those kids that was like, I'm a woman now. And I was like, oh, stop this. I want to be a kid forever. And I think part of that was like figure skating also because I very much knew like the second you develop curves, you are going to have to
change.
Relearn how to do different things and stuff. But yeah, what was puberty like for you?
Oh boy. I didn't, well, okay. The complicating factor for me was my thyroid went bust.
Yeah.
At like 13.
Yeah.
So up until I was about end of 12, beginning of 13, I was kind of like a fairly standard kid. But then I put on probably like 40 pounds in like 6 months.
Oh, that's so hard.
And like my diet hadn't changed, like my fitness level hadn't changed. And so you're already like, and even if I look back on pictures at the time, it almost looked like someone had pumped me with air. Like it wasn't like fat. Like it was just like water and like bloat.
Yeah.
And so I already wanted to die.
Yeah.
And then I had insanely curly hair.
Yeah.
Like my hair was even thicker than it is now, which
Yeah.
seems very hard to believe, but it was. And so I just like, it wasn't so much that I hated my body for changing. It was that I just knew it was changing into something that I was like, no. Like, I don't want it to be this way.
Yeah.
And, you know, weight kind of ended up being a thing that is something that is still with me to this day. I kind of feel like I have a like winter coat, if you will. Like I'm a pretty fit person. I work out like 5 days a week. I eat fairly well.
Yeah.
And I don't look it, I think.
And that's why, right? Like health isn't a size.
Right.
You can't tell someone's level of fitness or how they eat based on how they look.
How they look. And I'm also shorter.
Yeah.
And so anyway, when all of that was like kicking in, middle school was like the worst 3 years of my life.
Yeah.
And so add that to the messaging I was getting about being a teenager, like from church.
Yes.
And
I'm sure there was like a hard right change of like cover up. Don't.
Oh yeah. Yep. Like one time I was at this event thing. It was like a dance. And there were like some activities that we were doing beforehand. And I was like sitting down and my shirt had come up in the back. And they handed me like the big orange shirt of shame that you had to wear, like if your clothes were too revealing. Yeah, it was insane. It was like
insane for just your back.
It was insane.
What?
Absolutely insane. And it was stuff like that all the time. So I kind of interpreted it as, because like I was such a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And, you know, had like so much responsibility at home.
Yeah.
I was just framing it as like, I know I'm a problem. Like I just was kind of like, I know. Like I'm not attractive. Boys don't want me, even though I want them. And that's okay. And I'll make peace with it. And so I just kind of had this sad like acceptance of my life. But then when I was 15, there was this kid, and I won't name his name for his privacy, but we really, really liked each other. And we were the only, you know, 2 kids who knew each other. And of course, if anybody knew me growing up, you're going to know who this is, but I won't say his name anyway. We really liked each other. But in the Mormon church, it's like hammered into your head that you can't date until you're 16. Like you can't solo date. So we were 15. And it was, we would, during like weekly youth activities, we would like sneak off and like snog each other's faces off. And we started writing like little spicy letters to each other, and we got caught.
Yeah.
You would literally think we killed someone.
Yeah.
And I'm not even like, I am not saying that. It was like grief and devastation from the adults. And I found out like we had to be separated, which was like super traumatic, because for the first time in my life, I found someone who like liked me and wanted me like the way I wanted them. And that just like, like disappeared. And then that I felt so much shame over for like wanting those things and like talking about those things and communicating about those things. And so that like stayed with me. And then, you know, through like dating other guys and having physical experiences with other guys, like it was that way. But then the problem is the guys, they had that same trauma.
Yep.
So the way they behaved was really odd and very like hot and cold.
Yeah.
And so like there would be moments where it would be like, oh, we're going too far. And then it would be like, you would have to like make them feel better about it. And like, it was a disaster. It was
trying.
An absolute disaster. And hence why I'm here being like, I don't know if it's worth it. Like, because I've had to like coach so many guys to like, it's okay. You know, it was just a difficult experience for me. And I think what was really hard, if I go back to that specific situation I had when I was in high school. It was a double whammy because one, I was already in shock that someone even like was interested in me physically. And keep in mind with him, I never went past making out with him. Like we just made out. We started writing like spicy things to each other.
Literally 15. That's like so much less than what most kids are doing.
Amen. And so just if anybody is listening and knows the story, I want to give him credit. It never went past that. And I think as I got older and started reflecting on things differently and kind of understanding my own traumas and my own experiences, what I realized was like what we were doing was in fact the most normal thing in the world. Totally. And I was so excited for it because I felt like my friends at school.
Yeah.
For the first time, I felt like I had caught up. Like I was like, oh my God, like I did it, like I'm finally there. Yeah. And then it just got like ripped away. And I went into my bishop's office to like repent. And I found out that this pervert had read the letters.
Ew.
And talked to me about it, said I was like a walking pornographic film.
Oh my
that
God.
I had like almost robbed him of his chance to be like a missionary and be like a worthy missionary.
God. The fact that did anyone talk to him?
See, this is what I've never known. I would imagine so.
Yeah, but I'm sure it was like, don't be tempted rather than you are the problem that's going to prevent him from being a missionary.
Literally.
It's not like, Sam, you're going to prevent your own self from
doing what you want to do.
Even if it was finding a husband.
Right. No. It was all about me. It was the worst. It was one of the worst conversations I've like ever had in my life. And I was a 15-year-old kid. And it's so gloriously inappropriate. And my parents knew of the situation and I've spoken with them about it at length, and they feel awful, and they kind of got like whipped up in the fervor of it. Like kind of being like, oh my God, like our oldest kid is like a slut. Like, what are we going to do? Like, but then it faded with them like pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so looking back on that, it shaped everything.
Yeah.
Because then I'm like, oh, like I wanted this thing, but it's bad that I wanted this thing. But everybody else around me is doing this thing worse than I ever did.
Yep.
Right? At this age where technically teen pregnancy is a bad thing. You should not want to be a parent at that age.
Yeah.
Right? Yet it really like messed with my head of like the level of shame and embarrassment. Like I didn't even tell my friends at school that like I was going through this because one, they wouldn't have got it because they were like, why does that matter? Like, why is this even a problem?
Right. But if they weren't Mormon,
No. So I was just walking around with this, like, I'm a bad person for wanting this and like having explored my body and having like kind of started to understand how that works. And so I just like just shut it down. And then as I got, into my 20s and started kind of exploring that part of myself again, I was able to work through that. And it's also interesting when you start engaging in certain behaviors and you realize like the world kept spinning the next day.
Yes, totally.
And you're a little like,
Yeah.
That's not what I was told would happen.
Yes.
If this happened.
Yeah.
So when I hear Maddie saying all this, that's where my brain goes. I'm like, this poor woman is feeling like a horrible person for...
she's been told she's horrible for masturbating.
But also, I think it goes into like the nitty gritty. And I think this is the nuance of the conversation that we can like sort through, which is you're allowed to say to yourself, this is something I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Like that could be across the board. You could decide to be
that's fair.
Like you could decide to say, I don't want to engage in sex before I'm married. Like I have a line for where I want to be. Like I think if those are values that are important to you or something that you've had a bad experience with and you're trying to process it and make sense of it, so you're kind of holding back, fine. Like there is a values-based discussion to have here. What I get really protective and defensive over is when it starts to tie into, well, I can't do these things because I am bad if I do these things.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're listening to this episode and feeling like, oh my gosh, I could actually really use a therapist, we've got you. My practice, Therapy for Women Center, has therapists licensed in 43 states across the country. All the therapists are hired by me, trained by me, handpicked by me, and we really back and support our therapists. We vouch for them, unlike some of these big online therapy platforms. Also, if you're local to the Philadelphia area, we have 3 office locations there. So I would love for you to go to our website, therapyforwomencenter.com, and check it out. But I get upset too because I'm just like, it goes even beyond that because I'm like, you're literally an influencer now and you like shared this to like make money on some level too, you know, because she like does these like inspirational talks and she has a podcast and all of that. And that's like what's really gross to me is that she frames most issues as just you're disconnected from God and God will help you, which I get. A lot of people do that
way.
But it's just so interesting when you think about sex as like a construct and what people's lines are and like just like virginity is like such a construct. And I just remember being like obsessed with like losing my virginity and making sure it was special. And then I was like super obsessed with like my body count for a really, really long time. And I had sex with my high school boyfriend. And then I was like doing everything but for the first year in college. But I like really held on to like, oh, I've only had sex with one person. And I was like so protective of that. Meanwhile, I was literally like at parties giving people blowjobs. But like I had it that I was like pure and good and better than other people because I wasn't having sex.
Right.
And then when I was in college and when I was a sophomore, I brought someone to a party and I was date raped. And it was really bad. And I felt very like I didn't think it was that for a very long time because I invited him. We were on a date. Yeah. I agreed to go back to his apartment.
Right.
But like there was bruising, like there were a lot of like bad things that happened. And I literally woke up the next morning and like told my friends, but I like didn't tell them, like I didn't think I was raped. I just was like, look at how dumb I am and look at how hilarious these bruises are.
Oh.
Like I literally framed it as like, this is crazy. Ha 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 ha.
Did you frame it that way because you were feeling ashamed of the experience? Or was that like your kind of like gut punch reaction to what had happened?
That I was in denial about what had happened. Okay. I mean, I think I was ashamed because I had sex with someone who I had like just met. For sure. I had so much shame about it. But the way I dealt with the shame was being like, I wanted this. This is funny. This guy is cool. And then it got even worse because when we were having sex, I tried to like get him to stop and I like yelled a bunch and stuff. But I also was like, please wear a condom. Please wear a condom. And he didn't. And then afterwards, I didn't remember like a lot of this stuff too, really. But like, so I knew that I'd asked him to wear a condom, but I didn't know if he did or didn't, sort of. And he reached out to one of my friend's boyfriends, who then reached out to her to tell me to go get Plan B because he realized that we didn't use a condom. And it's just like,
oh, he realized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah. So it was so shameful for me. I thought it was like so disgusting and gross. And because I had, even though like I wasn't raised in religion, I did have a lot of purity culture, like thinking I was a good girl. I knew sort of like, this is what like good girls do. You know, I never wanted to be a slut. I was always like not super modest, but somewhat modest in the way I dressed and stuff like that. And yeah, it like completely changed. And I really wish people understood like when it comes to trauma, we know often and we talk about how a lot of times with trauma, repression, avoidance is a very common thing, right? Of like if you're raped or sexually assaulted, a lot of times people aren't interested in sex for a very long time, for example. But other people have the opposite reaction and they become hypersexual. Yep. And it's literally because when something happens and you feel powerless, your brain tries to regain control. And your brain can regain control through being like, this is never going to happen to me and I'm never going to engage in this and I'm never going to put myself in this position. Or you can regain control by being like, I wanted this. This is who I am. This was on purpose. and like leaning into that. And after that, it was sort of like a seal had broken and I just stopped caring about myself. Yeah. And I stopped like trying to not have sex with people, essentially. And if like someone wanted to have sex with me, I would kind of just like let it happen.
Yeah, you were there.
And there were like numerous other instances that weren't rape, but I just like walked around as like anyone who wants me can like sort of have me pretty much, because I just like thought so low of myself and I thought I was like so gross and used and stuff. And yeah, I just really wish people talked about that more, because I didn't know that until I literally was studying and reading a book when I was in grad school. And I read an incredible book that's very, very triggering. So I don't know if you want to read it, anyone, but it's called The Boy Who Lived as a Dog. Have you heard of that book?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Right. And he tells stories of kids and how they reenact their trauma and how, you know, like kids who are beaten, like when they go to therapy, they will like beat animals and stuff because they're trying to replay their trauma and their brain is trying to make it make sense. And I wonder too, if you think about Maddie and right, she clearly has all this shame around, you know, masturbation and porn, and she's not doing it as a way of, right, like hypersexuality, but she is like being inspirational as someone who is in recovery and never does it anymore. And like, great, like you said, Sam, if you don't want to do it, great. But women already have so much shame. There's already like no one, and I was obsessed with my body count. Like I did, like one of the most powerful, but not something that I recommend everyone does, was when I was in AA, you have to make a list of every person you've had sex with. And it's like this reckoning, essentially, which isn't very trauma-informed. But my whole personality is like, bring it on. I'm going to do the hardest thing. Give it to me.
What's the most painful way I can heal from this?
Yeah. And it actually did help, because I was able to be like, this is so dumb that I'm like so worried. And actually, like my husband was super helpful in it, because I'd always like been scared of body counts and scared about like people judging me. So being in that relationship was healthy. But yeah, I just think that like the word body count is so disgusting, and the way that like men are never asked about how many people they've had sex with.
It's celebrated. It's lauded. The higher the number, they're more of a hero. And this is why religion teaching sex is so harmful.
I agree.
Because it leaks even for you, right? You weren't raised religious, you weren't raised involved in that, and those principles still leaked out because they're very restrictive.
Yeah.
And I think what has been a really reflective part of even my religious deconstruction journey, and I think underneath that umbrella, like my sexual shame deconstruction, is that if you are being raised in a religion, you're very rarely taught how to think. You're more often than not told what to think.
Yeah.
You are told, this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad, this is all good, this is all bad. And that is reinforced to you, especially when you are in it from birth, right? If your family was involved in it, that's what happens. You're raised in those environments where those belief systems are reinforced. And as you get older and you start watching other people go through certain experiences and things happen to them, you see how people who make these quote unquote mistakes are treated. The reason why earlier I brought up this idea of values is because I don't care what decision you make. Like if Maddie has decided, she's like, I'm never going to masturbate again. It's like, great. Like, I'm happy for you.
Also great. You have a husband. Like,
yeah. So please stop acting like you're brave. Orgasm is fine as long as it's at the hands of someone else.
Exactly. It makes no sense.
How religion ends up teaching about sex is it's not taught from any sort of an understanding of you learning what your values are first.
Yeah.
Right? Sure. Like, there's a world where on the spectrum of sex education, abstinence is an option, right? What happens if you decide to be abstinent? What is your risk of having an STD, right? Like actually educating people on what that looks like. And if you if you choose to only have oral sex, or if you, like however version you want to twist it, right? Actually educating on these things and allowing people to learn what their values are.
Yeah.
And understand what matters to them, and them learning how to respect their body and how they feel respected in their bodies and how they understand how their bodies work. And that there's a normalization of it so that they can put more intuitive and thoughtful boundaries around how they behave.
Yeah.
And notice how nothing that I'm saying here is saying all of this is wrong and all of this is right. Right? No. Yeah. What I'm talking about is how we are inherently speaking to kids about this stuff isn't working. And how we are inherently speaking to children within conservative-leaning, religious-leaning homes. It is harmful. I have not spoken to a single member of my religious organization that does not have some form of sexual trauma or shame in one form or another because of how they were taught.
Yep.
Now, I know some people are going to throw out like the correlation causation argument. Look, facts are facts. People that are raised in religion tend to believe about sex a certain way. And that tends to be a binary, shame-based approach. It's why in red states, abstinence only is taught.
Yep.
Abstinence only isn't a value system.
Yeah.
Kids aren't being taught values. They're not being taught to understand why that is a viewpoint that is being advocated to them. They are taught you have to do this and anything else outside of that is bad. And if you do something outside of that, you are bad.
Yep. I think it's also so interesting to think about, and you kind of touched on this, is that even if you aren't raised in a religious home,
correct,
like my parents were raised religiously. So it's like it filters down. Even if you look at purity culture as a whole, like let's take the United States, because of our very Puritan beginnings, that is how a lot of this stuff sort of has trickled down also, is exactly like you said, like we're not taught to think about what our values are about sex or anything like that. It is just the inherited status quo of girls are sluts, boys are pimps, if you want to say that, right? Like it's not good to have sex before marriage, or you don't want to be perceived a certain way. Like I think even when I was growing up, a lot of it wasn't even about my parents. Like they didn't have a problem with it. They were very, very concerned about other people. They were very concerned about like how your life would be ruined if someone thought of you in a different way, or you would ruin your reputation and stuff like that. And I think that's one thing that people don't think about a lot that does impact people, is the concern, right? And parents fall into this, and I'm sure I will at some point too, is like the concern for your kid because of other people. But then as a result of that, you aren't like showing up for them and supporting them because you're just letting other people's concern filter into your parenting and your like presence in them. Yeah, it's just fascinating, the trickle down effects, and how most women that I work with have some sort of sexual shame, unless their parents were like really great or they grew up like in a really liberal place, or they had really great sex education, or maybe they had like a cool aunt or friends that talked about it openly. But a lot of women fall into avoidance of sexuality or hypersexuality because of this binary, and because we don't have comprehensive sex education, and because even parents don't say what is important. Like my parents never said that. My parents were like, if you have sex and you get pregnant, your life is ruined and you should be afraid of STDs. And, it's very similar to sort of like the just say no to drugs rather than a harm reduction approach, an education approach, because we know that a lot of times when you tell kids to do one thing, they want to do the opposite. And it's so much more powerful to teach them and give them knowledge and choice and allow them to choose for themselves. And then they can be responsible for the choices that they make, versus being in the place of like, I disappointed my parents, I have to hide this, I can't tell them, I can't get support.
And all of this because we wouldn't just speak honestly with kids about how their bodies work, about what to expect, about the normalization of this base biological experience of wanting sex.
Yeah.
And not understanding how to take care of themselves, what their value system is. Well, what is important to you? Like, you know, what matters to you in a relationship? How can you keep yourself safe? How do you protect yourself? You are having none of those conversations. You are just ignoring the elephant in the room their whole life.
There is this, like, Maddie talks about this a lot. There's almost this like fetishization of sex when you're married, of like they try to share about it as an advertisement to lure people into getting married, it feels like sometimes.
Yes.
Where they just like talk about how great, like I know Maddie and specifically her husband do this on their podcast sometimes, of like how incredible sex while married is because it's right and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, again, you go from sex is like horrible and dirty and you should only have it when you're married to then an immediate expectation that like your sex life is incredible. And it's like that's not realistic.
No, because sex is a learned skill.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then if you're not encouraging and fostering that safety within a partnership where you can explore and you advocate for what you want and you are telling men to listen to their partner when their partner is giving them feedback, right? I mean, I remember being in Utah in my early 20s and my mid 20s, and you would, you know, have conversations with friends who had recently been married or people that you know that were married. And the running joke all the time was how women were faking orgasms constantly.
Yeah.
And because they feel embarrassed about the fact that they have no idea what's happening to their body when this is going on, they just go out in the world and they're like, oh, it's horrible anyway. So you're not really missing out on anything if you don't.
Yeah.
And so it's a travesty. Like it's a travesty all around. And it ties into the fact that women for centuries have not been allowed to talk about anything.
Yeah. It's genius when you look at it if you teach women that their bodies are disgusting and gross, which still filters down, right? Yes. If you look at the way that we discuss like periods, birth, like, you know, all of these things, like, and I wasn't raised in religion and I thought going through puberty that I was disgusting.
Yeah.
The way that we shame women for getting periods, like,
and the embarrassment of like, is it on my pants? Like,
yes,
did I bleed through? Like the fear of people knowing that.
And now we have people that are banning tampons in restrooms. Like, we've lost the plot.
We've lost the absolute plot. And I think the fear of ourselves is what's overwhelming. And part of my deconstruction work, a lot of it was the recognition that I didn't have to be afraid of myself or my mind or my desires.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
That me having those things did not make me less worthy of a human. And that was like a lot of internal work that I had to do to unwind from that and kind of believing what I was deserving of. It's uncomfortable because and I think to anybody who's listening to this, and if any of this has made you uncomfortable, I understand, because these aren't conversations that are had very often.
And you don't have to do any work on it if it doesn't impact you and it doesn't bother you.
Yeah.
But if you feel like you don't have the sex life you want, it is probably a good place to start. Sex therapy is awesome. You don't have to have sex in sex therapy.
No.
Contrary to what people think. You talk about it, you explore things, and it's really refreshing as someone who sees a pelvic floor therapist all the time who literally has like penis and vagina, you know, pillows.
Models.
Yeah. It is really refreshing to be around someone who is
just talking about it.
Completely uninhibited from sexual shame. And it will actually show you where your work is still to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, one of the wildest. So, okay, if you ever want to be floored at what people believe about sex, you should speak to a sex therapist that is based in Utah. That's fun.
Oh, my.
Like,
do they teach shame to their clients?
No. Trying to like unwind, like the stuff that people come to them. I was like,
oh my God, is this a conservative sex therapist?
God, no. Like the circumstances that people come to them with, like not understanding why they're not getting pregnant. And then you talk to them about like, well, how are you performing sex? And you realize like they're trying it through the belly button.
That's not serious. That's not real. Are you sure? Are you fucking with me?
I Hand to God.
Wow.
That was a real story. Or because they go through the temple and they're wearing garments, they won't take their garments off.
Oh.
And they can't like figure it out.
Oh my God.
Because there's clothing in the way. So no, like really, I would say some of those are probably like more outliers and from like pre-internet days.
Yeah.
Like where you had no access to like
you had,
anything. But I remember when I was in my 20s too, there was a Sunday activity where we had like our leadership, some of our church leadership show up. And they would do question boxes where you could ask the leaders questions.
Yeah.
And they were anonymous. And so you'd like put it in the box and then they'd pick up the box. The amount of questions that revolved around like, is it okay if I walk into Victoria's Secret with my boyfriend or should he wait outside? Is that us being inappropriate? Or like, I want my boyfriend to come to my parents' house, but I feel uncomfortable with him sleeping on the same floor. Where would be best for him to sleep? Like just these questions that are like, they're so sad. Like it's so sad to feel that you don't even have the autonomy to make that type of a decision that works for you.
Yeah.
That even if maybe like you feel uncomfortable that he might see that bras and underwear exist. Maybe that'll make you feel uncomfortable. To just tell him like, wait outside. You have to then bring that to some authority figure to get approval of what you do or don't do. Because you think you are so inherently bad, wrong, and evil of like making that call. So yes, I'm not fucking with you. It was a scary, scary world out there.
Wow. Well, we hope that you got something out of this episode. We hope that it helped break down sexual shame, hearing about our stories.
Yeah.
And as always, we love to hear from you. This episode topic was inspired by one of you all who reached out about the topic of masturbation and sex. So we love to do episodes based on your questions.
Yeah. So, and we know like maybe we didn't get into the specifics of like mechanics about things, but we don't have to do that with you because you're adults.
We're not sex therapists.
We're not sex therapists, but we just wanted to kind of tackle like sexual shame at large and some of the issues that we've seen with it. So hopefully it was helpful. And if you would like more specific episodes, we'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, we could bring on a sex therapist and have them answer your questions.
Yep.
All right, everyone. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.